In the history of esports, many of the most popular games have been around for decades. StarCraft 2 released 14 years ago, League of Legends 15 years ago, and Counter-Strike only recently released the newest version of their game after 13 years. With so much time for growth, it's no surprise that these games form a huge portion of the backbone of competitive gaming. Fighting games, however, face a unique problem, in that they almost never get to see their games mature past even a few years. Many fighting game developers release new versions every year or two. For example, since the release of StarCraft 2, Street Fighter has been through Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, Ultra Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition, Street Fighter 5 Champion Edition, and of course, Street Fighter 6. This is a common practice for many fighting game developers. Another example being NetherRealm Studios, the maker of Mortal Kombat, who've been through 6 games themselves in the same amount of time. With new versions coming out so often, it can be difficult to keep up, and players have to try and hit their peak skill levels sometimes even within a year or two. There are a few games that have noticeably broken this cycle, mostly old games with huge cult followings. Super Smash Bros. Melee is still one of the main and extremely popular games in the scene, even after multiple Smash Bros. Titles have been released after it. Some old arcade games such as Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo still have active and very strong scenes, but this does mostly happen with games that are so old they were originally played in arcades. At this point, I have to make a personal comment. Despite anything that I just said, please, play whatever game you enjoy the most, no matter how old or active the scene is. In my 15 years of competing in fighting games, I've seen hundreds if not thousands of people play games they don't enjoy because they're afraid that the games they do enjoy won't be popular enough. I've also seen the same amount of people take chances on the older games they love and end up much happier because of it, especially because we have entered an age of fighting game revivals. Within the past few years, the fighting game community has been blessed with developers supporting games that are years old, some of them even a decade after release. One of the main content updates we've seen come to old games is improved netcode. Guilty Gear Accent Core Plus R was originally released in 2012, with the PC version releasing in 2015. 5 years after that, the developers implemented rollback netcode to give players an immensely better online experience. Dragon Ball FighterZ, released in 2018, is receiving updated rollback netcode as well, also over 5 years later. If you want to know more about the huge amount of games getting better netcode and what that actually means, check out our video on how Parsec saved the FGC during COVID. Netcode wasn't the only thing that older games have been updated with recently. Killer Instinct is a hugely loved fighting game, originally exclusive to the Xbox One console on release in 2013. Huge community support has given the game amazing tournaments, including the Killer Instinct World Cup. Despite the love and success of the game, eventually many members of the development team did move on to other projects, and the content slowly stopped for the game. Nobody, though, expected that a full decade later, in 2023, the developers, Iron Galaxy, would release a final content patch for the game, including many bug fixes and balance adjustments, renewing the hype for the game even that many years later. Another game with a strong and dedicated community is the hand-drawn 2D fighter Skullgirls. Originally released in 2012, Skullgirls has been through many development trials and tribulations, but fast forwarding to today, the game is being developed by Hidden Variable, the team originally behind the successful mobile version of the game, alongside Future Club, the team behind the art of the game. In 2021, Skullgirls fans were rewarded for their dedication, as the devs announced a huge amount of new content, primarily with the game receiving its very first DLC character Season Pass, over a decade after the release of the game, something that no other fighting game had ever seen. On top of DLC characters, both the mobile and full versions of the game have received constant updates since then, and the devs have even put on 2 seasons of the Skullgirls Championship series, supporting the competitive scene directly. In a surprise announcement, a new announcer voice pack was even released, done by Gary Schwartz, the voice of Heavy in TF2. With the season pass ending very soon and the 2024 season of the Skullgirls Championship Series in full swing, the scene is excited for whatever could come next for Skullgirls. There's never been a better time to play the games you love, regardless of how old they are. Developers are showing more love now than ever to their older games to make them stand the test of time. We are seeing players get more time to improve their skills, and because of that, we are seeing some of the highest level play we have ever seen. It truly feels like a time that anything can happen in the FGC.